Welcome to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live, where we offer the news, weather, traffic, sports, information, and entertainment our commercial drivers want to hear. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson. Speaking of entertainment, the Little River Band took the world by storm in the 1970s. Eagles founding member, the late Glenn Frey, dubbed the group as the best singing band in the world. He wasn't wrong. The Australian group charted big, with multi-platinum albums and chart toppers like Cool Change, The Night Owls, Reminiscing, Lonesome Loser, Take It Easy on Me, Help Is On Its Way, We Too, Lady, The Other Guy, and It's a Long Way There. The Little River Band set a record for having had top 10 hits for 6 consecutive years. Reminiscing got over 5 million airplays on American radio. Lady was a close second with over 4 million airplays. Bassist and lead vocalist Wayne Nelson is the longest-running member of the band. He joined them in 1980. His distinctive vocal and musical styles have been legendary, and he continues to thrill audiences of all ages across the world. Wayne was chosen by renowned Beatles producer Sir George Martin to record lead vocals on both The Night Owls and Take It Easy on Me. To date, Wayne has contributed to 22 Little River Band albums and CDs. The band continues to perform to sold-out audiences. I have the pleasure of speaking with Wayne Nelson on the show today. Hello, Wayne. This is an honor to speak with you.
Well, thank you. You're very kind.
I have loved the music of the Little River Band for years. You guys are just fabulous.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying so.
And you've got quite the background. It's an honor to speak with you. You've been such an important member of the group for over 40 years, from what I understand, with your vocals and playing bass. Are you the longest running member of the band? I think I read that.
Yes. Interestingly enough, kind of the last one standing. I took a few years off for personal reasons, but was asked to come back in '99. So a total of 42 years, 43 this year, associated with the band.
Oh, my goodness. And I understand you were recognized by Beatles producer Sir George Martin to record lead vocals on 2 of the band's biggest hits, The Night Owls and Take It Easy on Me. And after that, you joined the band, correct?
The process of auditioning took a little over a year. The offer was made to come on tour, and if touring worked and playing live worked, then we would think about the possibility of recording. Mm-hmm. And if that worked, then you'd be made a member of the band, a member
Sure.
of the business. And so, like I say, that took going through the process of creating Time Exposure with George Martin, and all of that took about year and a half maybe, before being made a full-fledged member, in quotes. Mm-hmm. So that's the way it worked back in, I met them in 1979, and it took till about 1981 to jump all the hurdles and pass all the tests to
Sure.
be made a member. Because there was an Australian band, and I lived in America. I was the only American added to the roster. So an interesting ride to get approval on all levels, but everything worked out.
And the rest, they say, is history. You've sung and played on 22 of the band's albums, from what I've been reading.
Yes, but fully involved with everything that the band had to do from 1980 forward.
So I was reading also that you got your start around Chicago with a heavy focus on R&B. Before we talk about that, I was kind of curious. When did you first start playing music, and who were your music influences and idols when you were growing up?
Started playing in high school. I had been around music my whole life. My father was a drum major, so he was very into marches and military music and John Philip Sousa, etc. My mom was into Broadway and all of that great composing, mm-hmm. and she had the Time Life classical collection as well.
Oh, cool.
And they were both in local theater. So from the time I can remember, there was always music in the house, and we were always going either to church or to the theaters or some kind of musical events. so I was just immersed in music growing up. And when I started branching out to listen to my own stuff, I was into Beach Boys, Four Seasons, Beatles, um, Hollies, all of the vocal bands, and everything Motown. I just loved Motown.
Hmm.
So all of that melody and all of that rhythm and blues was where I veered off to after all that exposure to the classics and the the standards
Sure.
and the marches. Uh, then the odd thing is when I finally decided that I was going to be a musician, my parents literally almost disowned me. Um,
Oh,
they
oh,
they
geez.
were they were horrified that I would become a musician after all of that exposure and all of that uh, immersion around me. But it was it was the right choice. I know I did the right thing.
Oh, it was in your blood growing up at an early age with all of that. What a wonderful influence your parents were.
They were from a musical standpoint. It was a very important part of our lives, from Christmas music to the radio and whatever. But I remember distinctly wanting to listen to a station on the radio, and they turned it off. They said that's not music, uh, which is like telling me don't reach in the candy jar. So that uh, just prompted me to start bootlegging my own stuff and listening to it when they weren't there in the house. So
That's
it
great.
was an interesting ride.
And you got your start around Chicago, and then you eventually moved to Los Angeles, and you worked with Loggins and Messina. That had to have been fun.
I actually worked with Jim Messina first. Loggins and
Okay.
Messina had split up by
Okay.
that point. I was a fan of that band. I mean, they were probably the number one band in the country in the mid '70s.
Hmm.
Um, but they had split up, and Kenny had already recorded. Jimmy was in the process of putting his first solo record together, and uh, I heard that he was looking for a bass player that could sing. So I called him, and I got that job. And luckily, that turned into the only touring we did was to open for Little River Band for 2 weeks uh, in the fall of '79,
Hmm.
and that's when Little River Band, they were using a studio player, and they asked me if I would be interested in coming down and going through that whole process that I just described: rehearse, tour, rehearse, record, and see how things went. So subsequent to that, oddly enough, I had friends that ended up in Kenny Loggins' band, and there was need for somebody to fill in on some of his dates. And the connection was pretty obvious that, well, you worked with Jimmy, come and work with me, and so on and so forth. So that was, there weren't very many dates, but I know both guys and have worked with both of them. Um, but never worked with Loggins and Messina as a band. That would have been a treat as well. But to work with them individually, I got to play all of their hits plus the L&M songs. So it all worked out in the end.
Oh, you had to have been over the moon.
Absolutely. Those look, when you're doing 6 sets a night in Chicago and loading out in the snow, you're thinking,
What the
is this all
heck?
there is? And and
Right.
and what, maybe my parents were right. Uh, and then I'm pumping gas on Monday night in the snow to make up for the income. And to then go to Los Angeles and go through the series of people that I was lucky enough to work with through a connection with a close friend who had gone out there and kept recommending me for jobs.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, suddenly you're, whoa, I'm talking on the phone with Jim Messina, or I'm going to go do a job with Kenny Loggins, and Michael McDonald's going to be there, and Graham Nash is going to be there. We're going to
Wow.
do a fundraiser for um, Alan Cranston, senator in California. All of those things were just like wow moments. There you kind of pinch yourself, going, when's this ride going to end? And then Little River Band comes up and meets you in the stairwell and says, hey, we want you to come down and come to Australia and possibly end up being a member of the band, international, charting, touring bands. It was all, uh, it was kind of surreal.
Mm,
And
yeah.
now the people that we've worked with and I've become friends with, everybody from America to Ambrosia to Criss Cross and Fleetwood Mac and so on and so forth. It's just like, wow, this is kind of too good to be true, but yet you're part of that flow, part of that musical industry, and
Sure.
it's been very, very gratifying and satisfying. My parents are both gone now, but I'm sure they would change their mind about their decision to have me be an accountant instead. So,
Sure. I bet they were super proud of you.
oh, they were, in the end, they were.
Mhm.
The first show my mom went to was 16,000 people, and she kind of said, "Oh, maybe this will work out okay after all."
It's like, thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Wayne, you've had an amazing climb to the top. I want to learn more about all of this, but we do have to go to break here. I'm going to be continuing my conversation with Wayne Nelson of the Little River Band shortly. You're listening to the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNCRadio.live. Stay tuned for more coming up. The Truckers Network helps professional drivers save money and makes their lives easier. We were created for drivers by a commercial driver. We know the industry and driver needs. A Truckers Network membership offers exclusive discounts through our trusted partners on things like truck care, truck parking, tires, oil changes, fuel additives, fitness, roadside assistance, first aid kits, driver training, and a whole lot more. Start saving today. Check us out at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. That's app.thetruckersnetwork.net. The trucking industry keeps America running thanks to the 3.36 million professional truck drivers who deliver everyday goods to 80% of American communities who rely on trucking for that last mile. The industry represents a diverse group with nearly half of drivers at 42% as minorities. Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, educates the public on the essentiality of trucking by telling the story of trucking and its positive impact on our economy, communities, and lives. Learn how you can join the industry movement by visiting truckingmovesamerica.com.
New music from LRB.
Pray for the lost and the lonely and our heroes when they fall. Dear Father, don't be afraid for me. I'm gonna join the fight for liberty.
That song is called The Lost and the Lonely, and it's by the Little River Band. It's a song they do during their live shows, and it's a fan favorite. It pays tribute to the people who protect this country. It's just a fabulous tune. This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson, and I'm featuring Wayne Nelson of the Little River Band. We've been having quite the conversation. Oh my goodness, the Little River Band has done a phenomenal job. I'm seeing that you've sold something like 35 million CD and digital downloads, and the band set a record for having had top 10 hits for 6 consecutive years.
Yeah, that was something that took us all by surprise, truly, because we're all admirers of all of that history that I was talking about, including Beatles, Motown, Michael Jackson, Elvis, et cetera, the Eagles. And in 1982, we had a top 10 that year again. And it was shown to us, the stat, that we were the first band to ever have a top 10 6 years in a row. Because most bands, you release something, you have some success, you release another thing, and then everybody kind of pulls back to get back to, well, who are we? And we're writing and we're doing this. And so maybe they skip a year, you know what I mean? Uh, I'm sure the Jackson 5 took a year off. Michael became a solo artist. But I'm just thinking of all those people that were massive headliners and hit makers in that time. And all of a sudden we're presented with this little award saying Billboard just named you the first act to ever have a top 10 6 years in a row. And we were truly blown away knowing all of the people that we admired over the years and the bands that were 15 and 20 years old at that point. Now LRB is 48 years old. Who would have thought? But that marker in 1982 was a total surprise to us and a great honor, but an amazing little achievement for the band.
What was their first hit to hit the United States? Because obviously the band was very popular in Australia. What was the first hit that really got things rolling in the United States?
I would have to say the first hit was probably Happy Anniversary.
Okay. Yeah.
But before Happy Anniversary, the song that put the band on the late night FM map, if you will, because if you remember mid 70s, 75, FM radio was kind of a nighttime thing. They were playing deep cuts and so on. Well, Long Way There was the band's anthem, maybe if you'd call it, 8 minutes long, and going through a lot of different sections and different changes. But a guy in Florida started playing it late at night and said, you got to hear these guys play and sing. And he was right. The vocals for Little River Band stand out instantly. But Long Way There was a what you would call a turntable hit, or maybe a top 100, something like that. But then the first one that really charted and put the band front and center would have been Happy Anniversary, and Help Is On Its Way came from the next record. And I think that was the one where, because it starts out with a cappella vocals to highlight that chorus. And it was kind of an undeniable earworm, if you will, that once you've heard it, you can't forget it.
Sure.
So I wasn't in the band yet then, so it's not part of the history that I know extremely well, but I know that those were the first two that hit the pop charts and went into the top 40. And then things started to roll with Reminiscing and Cool Change and Lonesome Loser and Lady. And suddenly there were, there was an accumulation of hits leading up to leading through the late 70s that led to then 80, 81, and 82. We had 3 more off of Time Exposure. So it was a good run.
And people still love your music. I mean, it has the staying power. And I think people have a thirst now to kind of go back and listen to this kind of music that it's not formulaic, if you will. So much of the stuff that's coming out today, I think all sounds the same. And you guys have always been known for such wonderful harmonies and melodies, and it's just great.
Well, thank you. And yes, people are Across the board too. We're finding we're playing to. We still play to. There are a lot of people who grew up with the music and are now in golden years, autumn years, if you will. But they still want to come and hear the music live. It's an amazing thing to see how many people are at a show for the first time. I ask that question every night we play. And it's usually something in the neighborhood of 80% of the crowd, because we used to tour and go to large areas and play large venues, and people had to drive to the venue. Now we're taking the bus to, cities and towns where we've never been before. But those folks are very grateful that we're coming to their neighborhood to, to present the music. But along with those people are a whole lot of people in their late 20s, early 30s who grew up listening to the music because their parents were.
Sure.
Or even their grandparents were listening to it. So we're starting to cover three generations for sure.
That's fantastic.
But those people that listened to that music and had it ingrained into them with all the melodies and the harmonies and lyrics that you could understand, and that weren't, politically angry or focused on some kind of fad or whatever. The songs are just about life, and so people continue to relate to the songs. My comment about it is life is no different. It's just the toys have changed, and
good point.
And the people just come and listen to it. Now they're holding their cell phones up instead of lighters, and they're recording. They're
That's
recording.
true. You don't flick your pick anymore.
Yeah, instead of steady cams, they've got a cell phone that gets better results, and it's a funny thing to go through all of those different musical formats, if you will, from tape to vinyl to CD and whatever. But again, the essence is the same. It's a live show. We try to make it fun and package the music a little differently, but people are craving that melody. They're wanting to hear it delivered by a band that can still sing and still play. And knock on wood, we're still one of those bands out there.
That's right.
And the number is shrinking, but we're still able to put on that good show and let people get in there for hour and a half, 2 hours and forget about the troubles of the day.
That's what it's all about. And you become a family tradition. This is terrific. I understand you also are going to be releasing a new album this year.
Yes, we have continued to make new music for there was a span of time when the former members of the band were burned out on the whole process. They all lived in Australia. So every travel to get where we were most popular was arduous.
Oh, yeah.
And over the years that kind of took a toll, but they had kind of given up on new music, and we've revived that, if you will, for the band. We've got since 2000, we've released 4 records of original music, and we're on our 5th one this year. With new blood in the band, there's some new writers, new singers. Everybody's singing in the band. Everybody's singing lead vocals during the show. It's a really exciting time for me because I've seen it. I've seen the tide, the wave kind of ebb and then build back up again. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the band and this opportunity. And the songs again are still about life, but we're trying to look for a nice, happy theme, if you will, for the music, and not get drawn into that negativity and social comments and all that kind of stuff. Just keep it light and keep people make it relatable to people. So that we're I would say the songs are all written. We're in the process of recording. It's very hard to keep a tour going and work, travel, get back home, and then take time to get into the studio and finish a project. But we're plugging away at it, and I would guess that we're going to be ready to release it in late April, maybe early May.
Okay. But
it's there's good stuff there. There's songs that you just can't help but listen to and smile and feel the joy. And it's going to be a good, a good solid record with, again, big vocals and a lot of melody that people can relate to.
That's just what's needed, I think. People want something positive. There's been so much negativity the past few years. I think people have been spinning their wheels. They need something that's going to lift them up. And that's what you guys do.
Thank you. And I agree. You can see people just kind of light up. Usually they don't know all of the band's library of songs, but as they hear their favorite and then realize, oh, they did that one too. Oh, that one's theirs too. It turns, it builds a momentum. By the end of the night, they're on their feet and, having a ball. So it's a joy to be part of that experience and trade that energy with people. But like I say, the job security of having younger people come to the show, that doesn't hurt things at all.
Not at all, exactly. Let's listen to one of your band's new songs. This one our drivers can relate to. It's called You Dream, I'll Drive.
Lean back, let the wind blow through your hair, baby. We ain't done nothing for nothing for such a long time.
The Truckers Network helps professional drivers save money and makes their lives easier. We were created for drivers by a commercial driver. We know the industry and driver needs. A Truckers Network membership offers exclusive discounts through our trusted partners on things like truck care, truck parking, tires, oil changes, fuel additives, fitness, roadside assistance, first aid kits, driver training, and a whole lot more. Start saving today. Check us out at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. That's app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson. I'm talking with Wayne Nelson of the Little River Band. We're talking about all the new stuff they've been doing and reminiscing. That's appropriate. That's one of their songs. So who's in your band today?
In order of seniority, well, there's me. I'm the old guy, coming up on 45 years with the band. Chris Marion is our keyboard player, and he has another joy that we've been able to do is orchestrate a lot of our songs, and Chris wrote all the charts. So it's a totally in-house kind of development where a lot of times we'll put 7 or 8 first chair orchestra players on stage in the middle of the stage with us. And that really keeps us on our toes because the people there, although they know the songs, they're glued to the paper reading the parts. And so it's a good discipline for us to not kind of go off-roading on, and get creative sometimes and just really stick to, we have to do our job in coordination with them. So it's a real good blending of the spontaneity of the band plus the discipline of the orchestra people. But that's a treat. We probably do a dozen, maybe 15 shows a year with the small orchestra. Okay. But Chris Marion has been in the band now for 16 years. He's a keyboard player, lead vocalist, and writer and arranger for some of our vocals. We spread that duty around to different people to get different ideas about voicings and the way somebody else might hear a song is always a great way to find a compromise about putting a song together. Our drummer is a man named Ryan Ricks, who part of his first ventures in the music business was to be a background singer with, of all people, Loretta Lynn. He used to tour with Loretta Lynn as her high tenor background singer, and he's got a voice that, he's Superman. His voice never quits. I just can't, at my age, it's like, I want your throat. Can I borrow it for a couple nights? Ryan's playing drums. The guitar player that's been with us now for about 6 years is Colin Winery. Colin is co-producing the new record, has done that before for artists in Nashville, is very conscientious, melodic, and is very into modern and clean guitar sounds. And that's the kind of thing that Little River Band thrives on, is because there's a layer of harmonies, guitar harmonies, underneath the vocals. There's always that 2 or 3 part harmony thing going on, whether it's with singers or with guitar players. So it's always interesting for musicians to be listening to the layers. And our newest member of the band is a Nashville songwriter named Bruce Wallace. Bruce is a great singer, great writer, and actually auditioned for the band 16 years ago when a guitar player named Rich Herring, who was in the band but decided he wanted to stay home and raise his 2 little kids, and he totally made the right choice to get off the bus. But Bruce came in and stepped in and took his place. Bruce was going to come and audition for the band 16 years ago and didn't do it because he had a writing contract. And when I met him, he finally said, "I've been kicking myself for 16 years that I didn't have the job. I'm not passing it up this time." And his joy of being in the band playing this music is very obvious every night. His energy level is just kind of a joy for all of us to feed into and feed off of, and he's a crowd favorite. So along with me, those are the 5 musicians.
Very cool. You folks have a wonderful synergy, and you make great music together. It's no wonder your fans love you. You have songs like this one called Love Is.
you. I wrap my dreams around you, like a river wraps around a drop of rain. And all those days before you, when I was waiting for you, that I thought I spent in vain, all added up, all made sense. If there's ever been one thing that's worth the waiting on, love is, love is. If there's ever been one thing to bet your heart on, love is, yeah, love is. Now only if forever can somehow last forever, never have to let go of your hand. I can wake up every morning, thankful every morning, blessed beyond what I can understand. All because I found you. If there's ever been one thing that's worth the waiting on, love is, love is. If there's ever been one thing to bet your heart on, love is, yeah, love is. If there's ever been one thing that's worth the waiting on, love is, oh, love is. If there's ever been one thing to bet your heart on, love is, yeah, love is. From the moment that I saw you, I ran my heart around you.
You know what I love? Your band also does fundraisers. You support some major causes like Wounded Warriors, Habitat for Humanity, Animal Rescue, and children's hospitals. That's terrific. Giving back. And it really shows the integrity of all of you folks. It's just wonderful. You've got a fan club, too, going on here on Facebook. I think it's called the Night Owls.
Yes, the members are called Night Owls. I was very, over the years, we've had 2 or 3 attempts at fan clubs for Little River Band. And for some reason or another, they've never caught hold. And so when our publicist, Donna Wilson, came and said, I'd like to start a fan club. I've run other fan clubs. I know I could make it not just a success, but I know I could draw interest and build a fan club for you guys. And I said, I'm very skeptical. I want nothing to do with it other than to be in the band and comment or whatever once in a while. And I would acknowledge it if it was something that caught hold, but I don't really have, have much faith that it's going to work. And I don't remember what year that was, but I think it's at least 4 to 5 years ago. Now the fan club is well into 20,000.
Excellent.
And we got about 250,000 followers on Facebook, likes and so on and so forth. So she's taken our social media and run with it and brought it up to a level that really does deliver. And she, those are her folks, and she keeps them appraised of when we're going to be in the area, and gathers them together once or twice a year to to come to a show and do special events and whatever. So it's a lot of fun for them, and all credit to her for doing it, because I thought it would be a waste of time, but it's definitely not. They're really enjoying it.
It's terrific. Where do people find your music? Where do they find out where you're touring so they can see you live too?
Well, there's a littleriverband.com. That's the first and most most basic starting point. We're also on Facebook, and we're on Twitter and Instagram. We're not as prolific on those formats as some would want us to be, but that's a young person's game, and we're not we're a little older than young, I'll tell you that. But in terms of finding the music, there are links in all of those places to go and find music. We've got a YouTube channel, like I say, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, littleriverband.com. As far as streaming services, we're on Spotify, Pandora, Apple. I'm leaving one out, a big one. I can't remember that one. Anyway, all of those places, if you go and search Little River Band, we will float to the surface on just about any major outlet that you wanted to go to. So we're findable. And even if you Googled us, all of those things would rise to the top too. So like I say, we're out there.
Well, congratulations on getting a new album out this year. I wish you great luck with that. I know that the fans are going to say, yes, we want to hear this. So this is terrific.
Thank you for saying that. And by the way, there's one other album that I'm also extremely proud of for reasons we mentioned a minute ago.
Uh-huh.
We did a live record with the orchestra. And first of all, live records are always a hit or miss proposition, because you're talking about live music, and good nights, bad nights for people's voices, and things can go wrong randomly, and so on and so forth. So putting one together it's a long process.
Sure.
Number one, but number two, the orchestras that we used, there were a couple of different ones in different areas of the country, but they played magnificently, and Chris's arrangements are amazing. But we have a live CD called Black Tie, and it was put out on a Time Life label. If anybody's looking for a modern rendition of Little River Band and what we sound like now, that would be the closest thing I would say that people should look for. Again, it's called Black Tie. It has a black bow tie and some chart paper on the front of the black and white cover. Really good record. And again, it kind of fills the gap between our last studio record and this next one coming up. So a couple good things in there for people to go out and look for that put a fresh spin on the hits, and you can get a good read of the band's energy from listening to Black Tie. So I highly recommend them.
Terrific. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. Shelley, it was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
And vice versa. Thank you, Wayne. You have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Take good care.
You too, Wayne. This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson. You've been listening to an interview with Wayne Nelson of the Little River Band. Definitely check out their music, check out their website, check out their concerts. Terrific band. Stay tuned for more great music right here on TNCRadio.live. Thank you for listening to another great interview on TNCRadio.live and the Truckers Network radio show. All of the material you hear on tncradio.live, on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of tncradio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast of the Truckers Network Radio Show.